Hello, welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics in sports podcast. I am your host, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corwin Hiller.
And welcome back to the stats edition of today's show. We're going to do a lot of baseball stuff, talk about some proposed changes that the NFL has laid out just this evening, Wednesday, February 19th, and shoot the shit. Talk about
Those are
stuff.
the best kind of episodes.
Yeah. So, ZiPS, for anyone unaware, is the, I don't know what it actually stands for, which I probably should, but it's a projection tool that most baseball sites use to look forward to what players' upcoming seasons might look like, using past data, both advanced and standard, to see just kind of where the numbers think that players will lie. So the 2020 ZiPS projections for players and teams is out, and we thought we'd start off by just like seeing where players are predicted to be. Projected to be. Those are the two words I could not say.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I think the obvious thing, as we said previously, is that no leaderboard in the MLB is correct unless Mike Trout leads it, and Mike Trout leads this leaderboard with a projected 7.9 WAR, which, for anyone unaware, for the uninitiated, ZiPS is very conservative, and for someone to have a projected 7.9 WAR is ridiculous. And yet, here we are.
Trout, though.
Yeah, Mike fucking Trout, man.
He's pretty decent at baseball. I'll give him that.
So his projected slash line is.
I just want to say, last episode, I promised I would stop making that fucking joke, and I just made it again, like 30 seconds into this.
It's okay. It's all going to be okay. His projected slash line is 294, 438, 617 for a 1,055 OPS, and that's just disgusting.
Not going to say any good jokes there. Just going to bite my tongue.
All right. The 139 hits for Mike Trout, over or under?
Over.
Yeah, I take the over on that every fucking day.
If I'm being honest, I will take the over on every single one of his stats except for strikeouts, which I'll take the under on.
I'll also take the under on triples, just because that's so random. Not that I don't think 3 is an attainable number. Just triples are just so random.
That's fair. Yeah. Oh, God, now I got to see what his...
Actually, he has like a decent number of triples. He has 46 career triples.
Really? In what, 8 years?
9. I guess 8 really, though. Like, it's 9, but it's 8.
Yeah. Oh, man. He's actually come down on the amount of triples he's hit in his career pretty significantly.
Yeah. Well, didn't he also, I have to look before I say it. Yeah, I was gonna say he also used to steal more bases than he does now. Mm-hmm. His rookie year, he stole 49, and that feels insane. Compared to the last year, he stole 11. Yeah. His hits has also been going down. I guess he's walking more? Not really that much more. Because his hits, his rookie year, he had 182 hits, followed by his sophomore year, had 190. And last year he had 137. He hasn't had more than 150 since 2016. Not that like hits is like an important metric to be high in, but like that still feels weird.
Right. What matters is his WAR is still stupid high and his OPS keeps going up.
Yeah. No, the problem is he's just good at everything. And
right.
Yeah.
It's hard to sit here and, really just pick at what Mike Trout isn't good at. Like, he only got 11 stolen bases. Oh, he only hit 45 home runs.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like picking at Mike Trout is like, it's like making those stupid nitpicky corrections on like an A paper just because the teacher thought that like no paper is perfect, and I fucking suck dick.
He only has 3 MVPs in 8 years. Duh.
What a scrub! Not even any back-to-backs in there. Fucking
right. Gross.
All right, so hold on. Let's just go down this list a little bit, because Alex Bregman is projected to be the second best player in baseball next year by a lot. So Mike Trout 7.9 leads the pack. Alex Bregman is a full 0.8 WAR below that at 7.1 projected WAR for the year. And this is such an interesting case because if the Astros have been cheating, like literally Bregman's entire career, which is basically what the allegation is, 2016 through 2019 covers all of Alex Bregman's playing career. How accurate can these numbers get?
Like, I would argue I would take the under on WAR just because I think the Astros as a whole are going to have a surprisingly low season for what normally we would expect them to have. Not necessarily because they're not cheating anymore, or they're not benefiting from knowing those calls so significantly. It's hard to predict that. I'm not going to just attribute it to that, but with so much going on and so much pressure they're under now because of all this scrutiny and just well-deserved hate they've been receiving, I'd put my money on them just naturally underperforming.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like having the stress where every city you go in hates your fucking guts is going to be a lot. Like that's tough to deal with. Not to mention the fact that you're going to be under the heavy scrutiny where like every good performance you have is going to raise questions and every bad performance you have is going to raise cheers because everyone fucking hates you and no one can trust you anymore.
I saw an interesting betting over-under that I want to ask your opinion on. Number of players hit, or number of times a batter is hit for the Astros this season, over under 83.5.
I did see this, and I saw a lot of interesting points. The over is likely, but only because apparently 83.5 hit by pitches isn't uncommon. Like apparently, I think last year the Mets had like 93. Like a weirdly high number.
So I guess the argument there is, do you think it's going to be a high number because everybody wants to just beam the shit out of the Astros, or it's going to be low because the umps aren't going to let that shit fly all season long?
So that's the grand question. And especially with the MLB taking this weird position of like all of a sudden they want to, did you see this whole thing where they want to have the umps work together to decide on intent for hit by pitches?
Oh, that's stupid.
You didn't see this?
No.
So hit by pitches, the home plate ump, I think, or either the home plate ump or the chief crew chief, Jesus, is allowed now to quorum all the umps on the field together to decide if the hit by pitch was intentional or not, so that they can decide whether they're going to throw the pitcher out the game or not. And it came out of nowhere, and it feels 100% as a result of everyone hating the fucking Astros and talking about how they're going to get dinged a lot.
Yeah, I really like, if it wasn't on the back of this, I'd say, okay, I kind of like it because it's, more chance for them to get the call right. It shouldn't happen enough to where the game's going to slow down significantly. But because it's coming on the back of this just increased outrage with the Astros, I think this is a real shitty hedging maneuver by Manfred and the rest of the MLB.
It's the timing of it that's really gross. What I would be more interested in seeing is the over-under on interference calls this season on the on teams playing the Astros, because I'd be far more curious, especially if they're going to be really tight about intent for hit by pitches, to see if we see more dirty slides.
Ooh, yeah, I 100% believe that, especially second base. Oh no, Correa, Altuve right there, possibly Bregman moving over. In some situations, I could totally see it being a jump up in number of dirty slides.
Yeah, that's definitely where I would be most curious, because apparently, because I thought the same thing, 83.5 feels like a high number until I saw other people talking about it, but there's also just so much noise in hit by pitches, especially in today's game with like the high amount of movement, where it's like, all right, was that just like a bad slider, or did you try to do that? So it can be tough. But I'll ask you this: over under the 9 hit by pitches Alex Bregman is projected to get.
Over.
Yeah, I will also take the over on that mouthy goddamn son of a bitch. Which hurts me to say because he is a fellow Jew, and you know how I love those dudes in baseball, and he makes it so fucking hard.
You've stood by him quite a bit in the past, but 600 plate appearances, actually 672 projected by ZiPS this year. Pretty damn good chance 9 of them are going to be good old beanballs.
Yeah. If you told me he got one hit by a pitch every 600 or 67 plate appearances, which would be 10 hit by pitches in a season for this projection, I would go, of course, and that would be more. So yeah,
yeah, I'd put him like significantly higher than that.
Is there anyone in the top 5 for projected WAR that surprises you? The whole top 5 is Mike Trout, Alex Bregman, and then a big old drop off going down to Mookie Betts at 6.1. Which, not saying that like just double back to the whole ZiPS conservative thing. A 6.1 projection is phenomenal.
Right.
That's just how good they're projecting Mike Trout and Alex Bregman to be. Anyway, Mookie Betts and then Francisco Lindor followed by Juan Soto.
I'm honestly surprised Juan Soto made the top 5, especially being ahead of like a big group of 3, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, and Christian Yelich right behind him. I love seeing it because I've been vocal about my just fucking love for Juan Soto. But yeah, it's him being number 5. It's cool to see, but definitely surprising.
Yeah, it's tough because all the players around here could all be put higher, and I wouldn't argue much. Like even Nolan, not even, but like Nolan Arenado is, I think, outside the top 10 here.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Acuna Jr. is like right next to Nolan Arenado. Anthony Rendon could be higher. I'm not going to be too much of a homer and say Glaber or Aaron, but like Aaron Judge, but you can make arguments. Same thing with Ketel Marte because he has really good defense and it had like a good hitting season. So it, especially because it's projections, like, dude, you could tell me any of the dudes on this page are going to have like a 300, 450, 550 season for like a really good OPS plus and had a great year with the glove and all that shit and posted a 7.5 WAR. And I'd be like, oh, okay, because these are all really good baseball players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like the big thing, just like moving on to like other projected numbers here. The home run numbers seem just real weird to me.
Those. Yeah. So Pete Alonso and Giancarlo Stanton are tied in home runs projected with 43, followed by Gleyber Torres, and then Mike Trout and Cody Bellinger each with 40. Gleyber projected to get 41. And that's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's weird seeing Gleyber up there. It's weird seeing Pete Alonso at number 1, even though he literally just led MLB in home runs, just because that's not terribly expected, No,
especially not in a sophomore year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of weird. I mean, some other like it's weird that the leader is projected at 43. No, it's not because they're conservative, and it's usually never as high as it was last year. I want to hope that someone is projecting like Mike Trout for 50 home runs. Like I'm always significantly more liberal with my projections, and I want to talk about those. Like, nobody wants to talk about conservative projections. They want to talk about holy shit,
wild crazy
Mike Trout's going to hit 55 home runs. That's crazy.
Do you know who Jorge Mateo is?
No, I do not.
Neither do I, but they're projecting him to get 11 triples. He plays for the Athletics?
An incredibly specific number.
They're projecting him to get 118 hits, 23 doubles, 11 triples, and 11 home runs.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know who he is, but I want to know who he is now.
I wanna look him up.
Who are you, Jorge
George Mateo?
He was with the Yankees, and then we traded him to the A's, and I made that decision. That was my choice. I don't think he's ever been in the majors.
No, it doesn't look like it. He was in AAA last year.
And they're still projecting him to get 11 triples. That's hilarious.
He's got to be fast. He how many triples did he have? He had 19 in AAA last year.
AAA. Ha!
Right, like 19's a lot, but it's hard to say when it's AAA. He had 3 in all of 2018.
Okay.
Sure, I don't know, man. I don't know.
What do you think about their projected stolen base champ of being Malik Smith of the Mariners with 48?
It's one of those things where, yeah, I believe that. It's not that surprising.
Yeah, it's one of those things like Malik Smith isn't a great baseball player, but the Mariners are also bad and don't care. So like they might just like that's what they did last year. They just like we're just like, yeah, man, go for it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
What player would you most like to see lead this list for
In
stolen bases?
Mike
Yeah.
Trout, but that won't happen.
Oh, okay. I was thinking something funny like Williams Astudillo, or like
I mean, if
something
we're
weird like
going like
Nelson
full
Cruz.
spectrum, Bartolo Colon to come out of retirement and be a pinch runner.
I don't think he's technically retired, which is the most hilarious part of this all.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he
Still
ever
no?
No, I think right now I think he's playing in the Mexican League.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Just to re-up on the whole ZiPS is conservative thing. Luis Arias of the Twins is projected to lead baseball in batting average next season. What do you think that number is?
So I shouldn't sort by batting average. Probably like 315.
See that's high. It's 309.
Ah.
Yeah,
All right,
and
let's
not
look at it.
again, not that
That's
batting average
yeah.
is like a number that we should like go by for a player's talent because Luis Arias is also projected at 2.8 WAR, which is like fine. But 309 that would also be a pretty lame batting champ. Like that number is usually someone in the league has a much higher number than every year.
Yeah,
What
like
was Tim Anderson's this past year? Like
it
340?
was crazy high. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
This is a conservative
Uh.
projection system, but it's pretty cool.
This is yeah. What else? What can we look at us? Well, I want to look at
I want to
walks
have a
because
I want
that's
a team
usually pretty
sort.
boring. Juan Soto right there. Love to see it.
What about weighted on base? Who's got the best weighted on base? Oh, Mike Trout. Of course, it's Mike Trout. All right, base running. I want to know who's going to have the most base running WAR. Or I don't know what base running. Well, I don't know what this number actually translates to, but 5.4 is the most for Trey Turner, followed by Adalberto Mondesi. This is a weird list. Followed by Malik Smith, followed by Billy Hamilton, followed by Christian Yelich. What a weird list.
I looked at the fielding, and I am so happy to see Matt Chapman finally leading that list ahead of Andrelton Simmons.
Oh,
Matt
well,
Chapman.
this is a weird list. Matt Chapman, of course, and Andrelton Simmons, of course. Mike Tauchman.
Sure, dude.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Yankees fan. I watched a lot of his games last season. He looks to be very good with the glove. I am just shocked he would get so much fielding achievement.
Honestly,
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead because I was working my way down the list.
I was gonna say, Yasmani Grandal, Kevin Kiermaier, that top 5 makes so much sense outside of Mike Tauchman. It's just so weird.
Like even Roberto Perez right there, who had such a great catching season last year. Aaron Judge, I'm surprised to see right there at number 7.
He's a really good fielder. Very, very good.
Not something to think about when you think of Aaron Judge.
A name I'm surprised to not be seeing in this top 10 is Mookie Betts because he's a phenomenal outfielder. But fucking nowhere to be. Dude, Mike Tauchman is projected to be a better fielder next season than Mookie Betts. And if that happens, I will eat a Red Sox. Pick one of them. I will eat Michael Chavis.
You will eat Michael Chavis? Chavez?
Yeah, I'll eat a Red Sox.
Just sure, okay.
Yeah, gobble gobble.
What?
You think Addison Russell's actually gonna play baseball next season, let alone 120 games of it?
I do not know.
And yet here he is, projected to be a great fielder next season.
I like how he's still listed as a free agent. They're not even projecting a team.
No,
I
but
don't know why they would, but
yeah, here we are.
yeah.
Addison Russell predicted to play baseball next season, which in of itself is a bold prediction.
I mean, I guess they're really just projecting if he does play baseball, what's he going to do?
Which I can understand, but at the same time, I'd much rather see an over-under on his jail sentence. Not that I think he's going to jail, but anyway.
Any of these other things you want to take a look at?
No, that's what I was going to say. Fuck you for taking it. Shall we move on to the stadium stuff we had queued up?
Yeah, let's do that.
So we've done a number of things on stadium size, metropolitan area of places that have teams, all these types of things. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of a different look at it. So what we did was, just for baseball, this can be done with other sports, and we can certainly do this again in the future for, say, the NFL. But we took stadium capacity and that team's metropolitan area population, and I wanted to see what percent stadium capacity is of the metro population. So, for instance, a number that you'll be super happy with, the Atlanta Braves stadium holds 41,149 people. The Atlanta metro area homes 5,949,951 people, for a capacity to population size ratio or percent, I put as a percent of 0.69.
So that means the stadium holds 0.69 of the population of the metro area?
Yes.
Cool.
So, given all that, I wanted to see if we were to pick a place that doesn't have a team and put a team in that place based on the average of all 30 teams' capacity to population ratio, how big would that stadium be? So, Corwin, just as an example, I picked Portland because that is an oft discussed area. And Portland has a metro area of 2,478,810 people. And if you use the average of this capacity to population metric, which is 1.03%, just for reference, that means that Portland's stadium, should they get an MLB stadium, would be 25,531.75 seats. And that is not a lot.
No, that's a very small stadium.
That would be smaller than the smallest ballpark, which I believe is Tampa Bay Rays at 31,042.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that stadium would ever even be approved if it fit that few people.
Yeah, it'd be. Now that's one of the, so this is one of the things I was thinking about as I was doing this, because it makes the fact that they have a basketball team make more sense, because a basketball stadium doesn't fit a lot of people. You know?
Yeah, not typically.
Like the Garden is a really big basketball stadium, and it still only holds like 18,000. Like, it's not a ton.
I wonder what the Staples Center holds.
I believe about the same, but feel free to double check me on that.
I will, bitch.
And
20,000.
So for 20,000. Okay. So yeah. that's actually rather big for an NBA stadium.
And it is Los Angeles, so that's expected.
Of course. So the fact that Portland has an NBA team, again, makes sense because those stadiums are not generally very large. And it also makes sense to why they will never get a football team, because they definitely don't have the 80,000 person capacity that a football stadium would look for.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they could squeeze? So obviously they could also get a hockey team, because the stadium capacity for hockey teams and basketball teams is like basically the same, because more than half of all basketball stadiums in America are like also used for hockey. So, do you think that they could squeak by with this?
I don't think so. I just don't think that the profit margin of building a modern, technically advanced and, just visually appealing stadium that only fits 25,000 people would make back enough money for them to argue, okay, that's enough.
So let's have some fun with numbers
Not enough
here.
money.
So the team with the highest capacity to population ratio is the Milwaukee Brewers. They have a stadium capacity of 41,900 and a metro population of 1.5 million people, which is just not a lot. So their capacity to population percent is 2.66. And if I use that number for Portland, their stadium size jumps to just under 66,000 people seats.
Yikes.
Which is huge. That would instantly be the largest MLB stadium by 10,000 seats.
That's a lot of people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't see that being feasible either. That's just, that's too big of a stadium for baseball.
31,500 stadium capacity would fit it right. Second fewest people, second fewest stadium capacity in the MLB, right behind Tampa Bay. Still the smallest. Do you think that would be enough?
No. Not if they're building a brand new stadium. I still don't think that would be enough profit margin for them to argue building what would end up being, a multi-$100 million stadium.
It's such an interesting question. So I have the list of which we've used so many times in this show, the Wikipedia list of metropolitan statistical areas in the United States. So unfortunately, this does not count Canada. So fuck you, Vancouver. The first city here that does not have a baseball team already is the Riverside San Bernardino area in California. Do we care enough to plug it in?
Not really.
All right, then after that, fucking Charlotte. You want to hear about Charlotte?
Yeah, I like Charlotte as a city for an MLB team.
Yeah. So Charlotte has it's going to be close. Charlotte only has a few hundred more people, or a few thousand more people than Portland does, believe it or not. Charlotte with 2,252,252. Oh my god, I hate myself. 2,569,213 people, and if you take that and fuck my ass.
Ooh, interesting math there.
If you take that and multiply it by our baseball constant here, 1.03%, their stadium capacity is not a lot. I definitely just mathed wrong. Oh, I did math wrong. Bad math, Josh. 26,463 seats.
Yeah, that's not ideal. That's very far from ideal.
Yeah, certainly not ideal. But at the same time, so let's tweak it a little bit, because you have some areas. So like New York and Los Angeles and Chicago are all at the bottom of the list in terms of percent, because New York, LA, and Chicago are huge, and to make their stadiums fit their capacity, so to fit their population, would be ridiculous. For instance, New York has a metro population of 19,979,447. And if we took that and plugged it into the same equation we're trying to use right now for Portland and Charlotte and multiplied it by that, you know what their stadium capacity would be?
I do not.
Give me a guess.
45?
205 788,000 people.
Okay, so I went a different way there,
Yeah.
and I was wrong.
Yeah, 205,788 people would fit into a stadium using the same constant that I'm using for Portland and Charlotte. So it seems a tad unfair to use that average.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
instead, let's average out the bottom like 15 teams in terms of this ratio and see what we get there and see what that number would look like. Because I don't think it'd be totally fair. All right. So if we use instead this new average I'm getting using the 15 highest teams in percent of population, the new Portland Stadium would be 36,686 people, and the new Charlotte Stadium would be 38,024 people. How do you feel about those numbers?
More acceptable, I'd argue. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nothing spectacular.
So that's kind of what one of the other things I was starting to realize as I was going through this is like Milwaukee. If there wasn't a history of baseball there, do you think there would ever be a stadium built there? Like if Milwaukee wasn't a sports town previous to like when it existed. Let me rephrase.
Like if
Wisconsin.
there was an expansion.
Wisconsin loves sports, right? They have a really good college football team there with the Badgers. They've got a really, really deep NFL history there with the Packers.
Mhm.
They've got a good baseball history with the Milwaukee Braves and then the Milwaukee Brewers. They have do they have an MLB? No, they don't have they don't have an NHL team. They also have an NBA team. Like
Minnesota Wild.
no, but the Minnesota Wild are in Minnesota, and Milwaukee
Oh,
is a different state.
I'm
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah, I know because I did that in a different episode, and I still hate myself for it.
Yeah, God, yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah,
It's because they're so close, Milwaukee, Minnesota, in like the way they sound.
Mhm.
Anyway, like, do you think that if there was never a pro sports team in Milwaukee, that going into like tomorrow, MLB would even consider it as a spot?
No, I don't really think they ever would. Like even now, if there wasn't a baseball team there, but they had other sports franchises, I couldn't see that being, in the top 5, top 8 for consideration for an expansion team.
Yeah, because it's so small. It's so fucking small. And so when I'm looking at these ratios, like the fact that Charlotte is the largest non-California city that doesn't have a baseball team, but its metro population is only 2.6 million people. Like the ratio of stadium size to population size is going to be super out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
But that led me to a different line of thinking. Let me know what you think of this. How do we feel? All right, so I'm gonna sort my list by stadium capacity, largest to smallest.
Okay.
So the teams that lead this list, the Dodgers, 56,000, makes sense. It's Los Angeles. Then the Yankees, 54,000, makes sense. It's NY. Toronto. So Toronto's an interesting case because it's got 53,500. And it is in a major metropolitan city. I think when we done this previously, we said that if they existed in the US, they'd be the 4th largest US city. Like they're really fucking big. But it's also a city that represents an entire country because it's the only city in Canada with a baseball team. Right. Which brings me to my next point. Colorado is 4th on this list with just under 50,000 people. Not even that Denver, which has a metro area by far the smallest in the top 5 of 2.9 million, but because it's not the Denver Rockies, and even if it was, it's the Colorado Rockies. And the reason I think that there might be a distinction here is about representation. Because I think when we get to some of these more West and Midwest states, the teams represent a huge geographical area that can draw a pull the way that like the Phillies can't, when the Mets can't, and the Nationals can't, and I'm not just naming NL East teams, and the Yankees can't, because if you go too far outside of Philly, you're now like basically in New York to cover those fan bases, or you're basically in Baltimore to cover those fan bases, right? Like you can't pull from that demographic. But if you went the same distance from Philly to Baltimore, from Denver to literally anywhere, you're probably still hitting Rockies fans because there's just nothing out there, right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
So could that weigh, geographically speaking, into a conversation about where to put a stadium, where it's no longer necessarily about, I should say, metro area, but more about, okay, how close is the next nearest team? Because just to go down my list a little bit, Arizona has the 5th largest stadium in baseball, 48,633, which follows perfectly in suit with the Colorado example. It's named after the state, not the city. The city's metro area is large, but not like crazy large. Texas after that, it kind of half and half on this one in terms of going with what I was just saying. It represents a huge portion of Texas, basically everything that's not Houston and the immediately surrounding areas, but there is another baseball team in the state, but the state's also fucking huge. Seattle is definitely like that for basically the entire Northwest, because that's the only team up there, and it's weird. And then it gets more city-ish after that with Oakland, St. Louis, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, San Diego, Chicago, blah blah blah. But I don't know. I think it makes I think it could add a layer to conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily if like a New Jersey team would work, because
definitely wouldn't.
You know, they have a good chunk of population and, you know, enough density there where, you know, it's accessible to everyone in the state. But being within that tri-state area, within so many other teams, it wouldn't work. Like I guess a Nevada team, but even then, Nevada is what, 2 big cities, so there's really no need to have a statewide team.
Yeah, Las Vegas is only what, like a 3-4 hour drive from Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's real close.
And Reno is about the same from San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really doing yourself any favors there.
But I would still just absolutely expect to see a Las Vegas team if there was another expansion, you know, in the near future.
Yeah, I would too. Actually, weirdly enough, that the Las Vegas population increase has been present. Their population increase from the 2018 estimate to the 2010 census was 14%, which is pretty. Yeah, it's pretty big. For reference, Cincinnati went up only 3.5%, and Pittsburgh went down 1.34%. So 14% is pretty large. It's not the biggest I'm seeing. San Antonio increased 17%. Orlando increased 20.5%. But 14.3% is certainly noticeable, especially when you're trying to attract professional sports leagues.
Yeah, I feel like of all the cities under consideration, that kind of matters the least for a city like Las Vegas, where such a vast majority of people who would be coming are tourists or just visitors.
So that's what I was going to ask you next, is like, just to keep asking about this. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go to Seattle, you don't need to be going to Seattle for a baseball game. Like, you can just go because Seattle's like a cool town. It's got a bunch of tourist spots and it's like a famous place. Same thing with Las Vegas. Like, if you're going to go to Las Vegas, like, you don't need to be going for a Golden Knights game. It's something you can do while you're there, while you're doing a bunch of other things. But like, Indianapolis does not have a baseball team, and they have other sports teams, but like, if you're going to go to Indianapolis for a baseball game, are you really doing anything else while you're there, or are you just kind of in Indianapolis? And I'm not trying to shit talk Indianapolis, because I'm sure it's a lovely place because it's got a deep history with sports, and that's enough for me. But if you ask me what's a tourist attraction in Indianapolis, I have no fucking idea. Not even the chintzy weird one, like visiting the Statue of Liberty in New York, or like going to the fish market in Seattle, or like going and checking out the music scene in Austin. Like I don't know what that is in Indianapolis. And as much as I fucking love baseball, I don't think it could survive if it's the only thing you could see yourself making an occasion for a city trip.
I'll tell you what, I have family in Indianapolis. I've been to Indianapolis many times. The zoo is really the only thing there I can name off the top of my head.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's not great for tourism in a city when there's not much there, Indiana, I love Indiana. It's kind of boring.
Yeah. So I guess it's interesting because we've often talked about where teams should go, and I'm very sure we've mentioned Indianapolis. Indianapolis does have a baseball history. It has a Negro League team, or had a Negro League team, the Indianapolis Clowns, but it's not deep rooted, as you can tell by the fact that they don't have an MLB team. And I'm sure we've mentioned them as like a potential expansion team at some point in the many times we talk about expansion teams. But I think this conversation about what would stadium size look like is an overlooked part of this conversation, because for one, I think baseball stadiums are trending down in size, which is probably reasonable. Like the fact that the Pirates used to play at Three Rivers Stadium is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
That park was huge.
I mean, it's a football stadium.
Literally, yeah. Same thing with the Oakland A's. Like they're moving. Not that they're not moving, but like they shared. The Raiders are moving. They shared a stadium with a football team. That's one of the reasons their fucking baseball stadium was so massive. And if you're telling me baseball stadiums are going to get smaller, I don't think I would disagree. I think that would make sense. What's like one of the more recently built stadiums
in baseball or football?
Baseball. I know Baltimore was built in the 90s.
I mean, the Yankees and Mets stadiums are relatively new.
Yeah, but they're New York. Like it's so tough because they're going to be big stadiums.
It's hard to say. I don't know of any right off the top of my head.
Detroit and Chicago, the White Sox stadiums, I think, are relatively new, and they're both sitting at 40 and 41.
Yeah, it's been nothing terribly recent.
When was Progressive Field built for the Cleveland Indians?
That was pretty damn recent too. That was probably, God, I can't think off the top of my head, but a handful of years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one seems Progressive Stadium? Question mark.
Progressive Field.
No, Progressive Field's definitely what it's called. It was opened in 94. Really?
I don't believe you. That was Jacobs Field. I guess that's just a different name.
Yeah, they probably changed naming rights because it's been open that long. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jacobs Field from 94 to 07.
Recent renovations or the name change, something there. But yeah, even 94 for MLB stadiums is new.
And that stadium is 35,000 people. Like that's not huge. So like,
no, not at all.
Because I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, so if you have a 35,000 person stadium, your stadium, if you have an MLB team and an NHL team, that means that your baseball stadium, baseball field, whatever, is like triple the size likely of your NHL stadium. And that feels like it's probably about right. If you have a 35,000, 2.5 times really, not 3, but like that's because you're not getting a football sized crowd. Like that's just not happening.
No.
But even like, I don't know, some of these higher ones, like the Mets 42,000 makes some sense because they're in New York, but like that shit never sells out, I've been to Toronto's ballpark. That shit doesn't sell out unless they're good.
Yeah, but even then, that's not like what did they sell out when they called up Vlad Guerrero Jr. and that was a big deal.
I saw him play at that ballpark, and let me tell you, my friend, I saw him play it in that ballpark against the Yankees, and that shit was empty.
Oof.
Empty. Like, man, you and I have seen the Orioles play the Yankees in Camden Yards in a not very packed stadium. And when I tell you that shit was double how busy it was in Toronto, dude, no one in this goddamn ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we've been to some empty stadiums. Even from what I've seen, Yankee Stadium's the only place I've ever been to that's consistently full. I've never been to like Camden Yards. I've been there when it's been quite packed, but that's very few and far between.
Yeah, the only time I've been to Yankee Stadium when it wasn't like busy was I went to a game that happened I went to a rainout where the game ended after the 6th inning. Not a busy day. And I think I went to a game that was rescheduled from a rainout, and that was not a busy day either.
Yikes.
So like that's it. Other than that, it's been like it's always fucking busy. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing to consider because like again, like if you put a stadium in Charlotte, right? Charlotte is a populous area, but like barely bigger than Portland, which you've already said is like kind of on the low end in terms of using this ratio. But Charlotte would represent so much of the South because the South is a weirdly underrepresented portion of baseball, right? Like there's no team. The next team farther south is the team in Georgia, 3 states away, Atlanta. There's no Tennessee team. So the next team you hit, if you go northeast,
there should be
would be St. Louis. There's the next team you hit going north is the Nationals. Like there's like nothing there. So even though you would, if you use this like very, very basic little constant that we're using, you would say, oh, well, its stadium capacity would be pretty small. Maybe it's not a great choice. At the same time, they'd be representing such a large geographic area that is just without a baseball team. Like if you put it in Charlotte, then if you live in, I don't know, the northeastern part of Tennessee, that's like bordering Virginia, that baseball stadium's got to be at least like 2, maybe even 3 hours closer to you than the Braves stadium is.
Right.
And you don't have to deal with Atlanta traffic.
It's a big plus right there.
It is. And like, as weird as it sounds to us who are from New Jersey, people are like very willing to drive like 4 hours casually.
Because there's so much within 4 hours of us.
Yeah. If you drive, dude, I could drive 4 hours right now and be in Massachusetts, be in Boston in 4 hours, driving past several metropolitan areas, including New York fucking City. So,
yeah, might take you 4 hours to get to New York on some days.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the one day we went to Yankee Stadium, it probably took us 4 hours.
Oh, we got into the city pretty quick. We did not get to Yankee Stadium pretty quick. We severely underestimated the subway, which is a mistake on our part.
Just a tad.
God, the subway. She is a fickle beast. I was coming home from the city one day. I was in to see a friend do a performance, and our subway line got stopped because somebody had killed themselves on the subway.
Oh.
And I had the wild New York first thought of, fuck, that's so inconvenient.
I mean, I hate to also be that guy, but yeah, that would be a bummer for like someone committing suicide on the subway would probably be the second most annoying thing or the second most impactful thing about that situation.
Yeah, like it sucked. We had to take an Uber XL like down 20 blocks in Manhattan. It was awful.
Bad people.
Like I know it sounds bad, and like, but like they, don't get me wrong. The entire time we're going down, oh my god, like, this is so fucking terrible. It feels so bad for this person. Apparently, like they did survive, so like good for you. But at the same time, it's like, fuck, like surge pricing. It's a Friday. There's 4 of us. Like, it sucks. Anyway,
Okay,
that's my story.
People and also understand the circumstances.
Yeah, you gotta have a broader set of context there. So I don't really have anything else to say on this. Anything else you want to say about it before we pivot over to the NFL?
Nothing that we haven't talked about now or in the previous episodes talking about MLB expansion.
Do you think we'll ever have a reason to talk about expansion again until it actually happens?
I'm sure we'll make up a reason.
Any stone left unturned?
I'm sure we'll find it.
I hope so. All right. So just to wrap things up, now that we've covered our stats portion and we are legally no longer have to talk about stats, we've covered our asses. The NFL is proposing, in conjunction with an agreed upon CBA, to expand the playoffs in terms of the teams allowed to enter it, going from 6 teams per league to 7. And in conjunction with this, they would also increase the NFL regular season from 16 games to 17 games and shorten the preseason from 4 games to 3 games. So what make you of this? Okay?
I just don't know why they're even trying to make these changes. I mean, I get why they're doing it because it makes them more money. But I mean, the NFL had far and away the best playoff structure of any major franchise or any major league in the US. I don't know why they're trying to fuck with the formula of it. Adding just a whole another layer to this that's just more complexity, adding another team that's just diluting the talent pool in the playoffs. I mean, we saw it this year with there were some shitty teams in the playoffs this year. There was no nice way to say that. I really don't think we need more mediocre teams, with the opportunity and the ability to go in and play in the playoffs. 17 games per season, sure. Like, I don't mind that at all, especially if it comes with an added bye week. It's one less, preseason game. Fantastic. It sucks for fringe bubble players on the rosters, but as for the actual NFL product and player safety, I'm all for it. It's just overall, I'm fine with everything but the change in playoff structure.
This is a weird thing. I'm going to try to tackle it from a few different perspectives. So first off, just aesthetically speaking, I hate the idea of 3 wildcard teams.
It's so stupid.
It's an ugly number.
It really is.
And not only that, it'd be 3 wildcard teams and 1 team getting a bye per league. And it just looks so icky. Like, I'd rather them just leaned into it and said, fuck it, we're going to make 8 teams from each league go to the playoffs, get rid of buys, and just do full-on seeding. 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 the whole way through. And just be like, look, we want to embrace the NBA model and the NHL model because they're pre-existing and people like their playoffs and we want more teams and blah, 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 blah. But this feels like just such a gross in between. Like, all right, we get it. You want more teams, but like this way?
Yeah, it's. Ugh.
So yeah, again, I get it. I'm not crazy about it being this, but I get it. I guess I feel like they're also going to have to probably expand the number of days they're showing NFL games on during the playoffs. Because the way they have it structured right now makes a lot of sense. There's 2 games per day, Saturday and Sunday, but
they're bumping it up to 3.
I was going to say either going to bump it up to 3, which they can do, like they do it during the regular season, or try to play games on Friday nights as well, which I don't know.
Yeah, no, in that article Schefter put out, they already said they were going to just have it be 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday.
All right, fair enough.
Which is dumb.
So
honestly, that's not the end of the world, you know. A
Yeah.
12 o'clock game, a 4:30 game, and a primetime game, sure, whatever. It's just the fact that there has to be 3 games to cover the wild card round now is annoying.
So there is also the question of like, all right, what are the outside factors that have led to you making this decision? Like increasing the number of teams making the playoffs is also seen as a way to stop teams from tanking. Because if there is a now larger percent chance that you are going to enter the playoffs, it might de-incentivize you from like not fucking up your entire season to get a draft pick, right? Like if you're, because right now, like a shitty thing to be in the NFL is 6-10, because you are at least 3 games away from being in the hunt, and you are like at least 3 games away from getting a top 5 pick. So 6-10 sucks, and it might incentivize you to just try to be 3-13 instead and get a draft pick. But if you could be 8-8, make the playoffs instead of 9-7. Well, hey, it's only 2 extra games. Maybe we'll like sign that running back or like sign that wide receiver, or that defensive end, or like some shit. So there is that idea as well. I'm not sure tanking is such a problem for fans of the NFL that this needs to be addressed in the same way basketball, hockey, and baseball had to do it. Teams definitely tank, but I don't think they usually last nearly as long. And I think the results from the tanking happen more quickly, but that's a discussion for another day. The main thing I think I'm interested in seeing is what the NFLPA is going to do about wages if they add an additional game for the 17-game regular season. Because in theory, everyone's wage should increase by whatever percent adding 1 game to 16 is. What is that, like 8%?
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
I don't want to do the math. A little less.
I don't really care either. But think about it. You are Le'Veon Bell. You are contracted to get paid $13 million to play 16 NFL games plus playoff bonuses for each additional playoff game you play. Now I'm being told, hey, so we're going to keep paying you the same amount, but we want to increase your production 6.25%, by the way. I did the math.
Nice.
That should be met with a 6.25% increase in my wage, right? You're doing more work. You should be getting paid more money. Right?
I doubt it's going to work out that way.
So that's why I'm saying I'm interested in seeing how they handle it, because I know in the past, so like this comes up with baseball a lot, because there's been a lot of talk just like over the years casually of like, should the MLB decrease the number of games played in a season? And I've heard players talk, D. Gordon sticks out in particular, about how players don't want that because they don't want teams to leverage that into paying them less. You know, because like if you were I don't know, a free agent and you got a 1-year $10 million deal, well, hey, maybe next year when the season's only 140 games instead of 162, team could be like, hey, yeah, I know you were worth 10 million last year, but there's less games this year. Here's 8 million, you know? So you'd think that the opposite would be true too. If they added more games, I'm doing more stuff. I need more money to keep doing these more things. That's why there's playoff bonuses.
Right.
So that's why I'm interested in seeing what the NFLPA will do, because I'm not saying it's going to be like this linear as I've just laid it out, but I'm sure that this will be a point that they fight over.
Yeah, I feel like it would be real easy just to keep. No, because that would have changed all the performance bonuses as well and incentive bonuses.
Yeah, volume based would make it way easier.
Yeah, this would be unless they literally just say, all right, we're gonna increase it everything across the board by that 6 and change percent, like you said. Yeah, this is gonna. I think the fact that this stuff is coming out and is being agreed upon before we get to the deadline for the new CBA, I think that's a really good sign for the fact that, we're not going to have a holdout, not going to have a lockout. But there's still a lot of negotiating left to do before they finalize all this.
Yeah, I wonder if they put all this stuff out now to get public opinion on it going into the negotiations,
Mm-hmm.
just to dip a toe in the water. Because if people like really loved this, I'm sure this is something that they would be firmer on in negotiations. But if people were like, this is awful, don't do this, then I'm sure that they would still fight for it, but like not as hard.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to see how this turns out. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm excited. Corwin Heller.
I'm excited. Corwin
So
Heller.
how would you feel? So let's see. That means that last season, the Steelers would have made the playoffs. There you go.
Woo.
And the Rams would have made the playoffs. How would you feel about that? That those teams, the Steelers would be going in at 8-8, the Rams would be going in at 9-7.
And they'd both end up playing the Chiefs in the AFC, and then
no, because the Chiefs would have Baltimore had the first round bye.
right. So
yes,
the Chiefs versus the Steelers, and the Chiefs would fucking smoke them, and then the Rams would be playing Green Bay.
Yes. No, New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, is anyone going to argue that either one of those teams could have pulled off an upset?
I guess in
I
a
can't
year
argue
in
that.
which Tennessee beat New England, you could go ahead and say anything's possible.
Right.
And then in a year where Tennessee beat Baltimore, you could continue to say anything's possible. But at the end of the day, you're right. This is just about money.
Mm-hmm. I don't like the fact that a Rams team that was nowhere close to the contender they were the past couple seasons, and a Steelers team being led by an XFL quarterback for the most of the season could contend in the playoffs and just dilute the product that we have to watch. It's the playoffs. It's supposed to be the best of the best. I like that there's wild cards. It adds that little flair and the ability for teams to still make it in. But a third wild card team is just beating a dead horse.
Yeah, that's why I think that how would you feel if they went full NBA NHL style, where 8 teams from each league make it in and they just seed it 1-8?
I wouldn't be a huge fan.
How would you feel about it comparatively compared against this?
Compared to this?
Yeah, the 7 team scheme.
I don't think I'd like it as much. I still like that there's a first round bye incentive for the top performing teams. Neither really stands up to what we had previously with the NFL, but I don't know. It's a weird sport. It's not like basketball where you can play, a whole extra round of playoffs because these guys aren't getting beat up to the level that NFL players are. It's, it doesn't really compare too well because, man, what's this going to be, like 20 games now? 21 possible games?
I don't even know. Yeah, yes.
17 regular season, and would there be 4 rounds in the playoffs, or would there be 3 still? Yeah, wild card, division, championship, and Super Bowl. That's 21 possible games. That's a lot of football.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Let me ask you this. How would you feel about variable playoff schematic? So imagine the NFL came out and said up to 8 teams from each league can make the playoffs, but teams must be 9-7 or better. And if any team is below 9-7 and would have been in the 8, they don't make it. And the highest team, the highest seeding team, one down, whatever, get a bye. So if like with 2019, the only 6 of the 8 teams would have been 500 or better because the Pittsburgh Steelers finished 8-8, and then after that would have been Denver, Oakland, Indy, or the Jets at 7-9. So they wouldn't have made the playoffs. And so exactly who got the buys this year, Kansas City and Baltimore, would have gotten them. Whereas in the NFC, the Rams would have been all good to go into the playoffs, but the Cowboys or Bears would not have been because they were 8-8 and wouldn't have cleared the threshold. So there'd be 6 playoff teams in the AFC and 7 playoff teams in the NFC, with 2 teams getting a bye in the AFC and 1 team getting a bye in the NFC.
Oh, that's so complicated. I can't even wrap my head around it, like how it would work year to year.
It would definitely be more complicated, but I think one of the major complaints, I'm not fully endorsing my own idea because I came up with it right now, and that feels like a weird hill to die on. But I think one of the major complaints for literally every sports fan when it comes to any playoff structure is if you increase the number of teams going, the pool of talent gets worse, which is true, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So if you created a way or a system in which possible playoff team number can increase, but the talent must also be there, I'm wondering how fans would feel about it, because you won't get any 7-9 teams going. I guess that don't win their division, because that still matters.
Mm-hmm.
But if you finish 10-6 like the Jets did in 2016, you would have gone to the playoffs. But not the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, who are 8-8, because you were within the initial parameters, but you failed parameter 2, and it's an and situation, not a nor situation.
Right.
I'm not saying this would be clean, but I'm interested in this idea.
I would be interested as well. I like just hearing you describe it. I'm having a hard time visualizing it, so I have a hard time like comprehending it. Not, any fault against the way you're describing it. Just, there's a lot of moving parts, and I need a good chart to be able to piece this all together in my head.
All right, let me lay it out better. All right. Up to 8 teams can go to the NFL playoffs.
Right.
Which is, we talked about it already. An NHL style. Up to 8 teams. But in order to be one of those 8 teams, your record has to be 9-7 or better. You must be over 500 win percent wise. If not, things follow from there. You don't make the playoffs. The top seed team gets a bye because there's fewer teams in the playoffs. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But that'd be the main part of it.
But what happens when 8 AFC teams qualify, but only 6 NFC teams qualify? And now we're at the Super Bowl with, the NFC champion having to play one fewer game than the AFC champion.
Tough titties.
Yeah, I'm not huge on the idea of,
You're right. That's definitely a huge downside to my plan.
Coming down to tough titties. Although that would be a phenomenal press conference for Roger Goodell to have.
Oh my God, that'd be it. Let me put it this way: I don't think Roger Goodell at this point in time could do anything to make him have a worse press conference than any of what Rob Manfred has done in the last 2 weeks.
So true.
The man literally called the Commissioner's Trophy, which is what the trophy is called for winning the World Series, a piece of metal.
Oh God, I fucking hate him so much for that.
It's called the Commissioner's Trophy, and the commissioner called it a piece of metal. Fuck you.
Oh, I hate that man.
I really didn't have too strong a feeling on him before like 2 months ago, and now I loathe him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. He was always one of those guys to me that was just he was a jag when it comes to commissioners. Like he never really
100%.
did anything, so you couldn't really hate too much.
Just keeping the course. That's
Right. But boy, he's showing his true colors.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is it hurts my little baseball fan soul. But anyway, I guess we'll see what the NFLPA has to say about things and just kind of take it from there. But
yeah, I mean,
this is a thing that might happen.
The deadline is for the CBA to be signed, but I'm sure there will be significant more news to be discussed before then.
Oh, 100%. Lot going to be happening with various players associations in the next few weeks and months, so we'll keep y'all posted. Do you have anything else to say on any of the subjects we've talked about today?
Just this one last Jared Goff topic.
Oh yeah. Lay it on me.
So Spot Track tweeted this out earlier today. In 1 month, on March 19th, Jared Goff will be paid his $21 million roster bonus for 2020. In addition, his $25 million 2021 salary, $2.5 million 2021 roster bonus, and $15.5 million 2022 roster bonus all become fully guaranteed. His dead cap figure will rise to $94 million.
Fuck.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I just want to say if I'm the GM for the Rams right now, I think there needs to be a serious conversation about cutting Jared Goff loose.
Yeah. There really does.
That is a lot of money for a inconsistent and, fair to say, wildly underwhelming quarterback, especially with how the rest of their salary cap has kind of come together over these past couple of years. The Rams have gone super heavy into win now, overpaying contracts to ensure they could have their top players, selling off draft capital to have short-term veteran contracts. They're in a tough spot. They're probably in the worst cap situation in the league right now. And Jared Goff, I don't think he's the guy to win them a Super Bowl anytime soon.
Oh God, no. No, absolutely not. As it stands right now, they're 2021, so just next year, adjusted salary cap is $230 million, which is 30. It's like $21 million over the salary cap.
Oh, that's so much money.
And that's like on the books, actual committed money, basically. Because the Rams have not been stingy with the contracts as of late. Their adjusted salary cap hit for 2022, you might ask, $309 million.
Oh my God, really?
Which is $90 million over the salary.
Oh, Les Snead, you need to get your shit together, man.
Honestly, the craziest part is if they had won the Super Bowl last year, I don't think anyone would care.
I would say people would care, but it would be very easy to say it's worth it. You won a title.
You're right.
All is worth it.
Fair. Because this is fucking like for 2023, which the salary cap isn't even like projected yet on Spot Track.
Yeah.
They still are committed to an adjusted salary cap of just under $200 million.
Which
and there's not even a figure yet. And like go ahead.
By 2023, the salary cap will be well over 190 million. But the fact that that's 3 more draft classes worth of players you're going to have to sign, as well as, any other free agents you end up signing in that time, being that committed this far out is tough titties.
Just to lay out the 6 contracts they have on the books right now that would affect their 2023 cap space, starting with smallest going to highest. Johnny Hecker will be owed $4.7 million, 2.3% of the cap. Tyler Higbee, their tight end, $6.85 million, 3.4% of cap. Todd Gurley, the running back, $12.5 million, 6.3% of cap. Brandon Cooks, wide receiver, $17.4 million, 8.8% of cap. Aaron Donald, $19 million, 9.52% of cap. And the largest, Jared Goff, quarterback, $30 million, 15.19% of cap.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Individually, none of those are just excruciating. The Tyler Higbee one kind of stands out. Jared Goff obviously stands out. But when you have that much money committed to 6 individual players, especially when there's only a handful of those that you can honestly say you will definitely still want in 2023, that's a tough situation.
Yeah, especially
Rams,
like the New York
Rams
media.
not only need to get creative, but they need to be ruthless with how they deal with this cap in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah,
coming years.
Absolutely they do. And that's what I was about to say is like with the New York media already talking about like should the Jets trade Le'Veon Bell because of his cap hit is ridiculous because the Jets have so much cap space it doesn't even matter. Fucking pay him for 7 years. Who gives a fuck right now? Like we have no caps. We have no cap issues. But the Rams, like Johnny Hecker will probably stay because $4.7 million is not a ton. But like Tyler Higbee, fuck it, you can trade him. Todd Gurley, he's gone. Brandon Cooks, he could be gone. Aaron Donald, you'll keep because that's a premium position that you desperately need. And Jared Goff is like such a maybe. But like they're gonna have to figure some shit out because this is fucking ugly.
God, I don't know how they're gonna be able to handle this.
Oh, they're not. That's the answer right there.
Fair enough.
Who do you think is making more next year? Their punter or their center?
Their punter, Johnny Hecker.
Yeah, their punter. This is an amazing list.
Oh,
I love Spot Track. Yeah, so that'll be an interesting case to watch because if this crumbles down around them, they're gonna go from being the golden child of the NFL to the foster child of the NFL real fucking quick.
Les Snead's gonna be out of a job real fucking quick.
Yeah, this is wow. Oof, ouchie, wow.
Oof, ouchie, ouchie, owie.
Ooh, ow, my cap space. Any final thoughts, my friend?
No.
All right, then we're getting out of here. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at JuicyPod. If you want to hit us up via Gmail, so at juicythenumbers@gmail.com. Greg Robinson faces 20 years in jail because he had 157 pounds of marijuana at the border. I just got that notification on my phone, and that's a ludicrous sentence.
That is insane.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it, though, because I already said all the stuff. So until Monday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.